Welcome to Bite at a Time Books, where we read you your favorite classics one bite at a time. My name is Bree Carlile, and I love to read and wanted to share my passion with listeners like you. You can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. You'll also find our new t-shirts in the shop, including podcast shirts and quote shirts from your favorite classic novels. Be sure to follow my show on your favorite podcast platform so you get all the new episodes. We're part of the Bite at a Time Books Productions Network. If you'd also like to hear what inspired your favorite classic author to write their novels, and what was going on in the world at the time, check out the Bite at a Time Books Behind the Story podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we'll be continuing Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Chapter 5. In the case of sand, as in that of woman, there is a fineness which is treacherous. He felt that he was entering the water, and that he no longer had a pavement under his feet, but only mud. It sometimes happens that on certain shores of Bretagne or Scotland, a man, either a traveler or fisherman, while walking at low tide on the beach far from shore, suddenly notices that for several minutes past, he has been walking with some difficulty. The beach underfoot is like pitch. His soles stick fast to it. It is no longer sand, it is bird-lime. The strand is perfectly dry, but at every step that he takes, as soon as the foot is raised, the print is filled with water. The eye, however, has perceived no change. The immense beach is smooth and tranquil. All the sand has the same aspect. Nothing distinguishes the soil that is solid from that which is not solid. The joyous little cloud of sand lice continues to leap tumultuously under the feet of the passerby. The man pursues his way. He walks on, turns towards the land, endeavors to approach the shore. He is not uneasy. Uneasy about what? Only he is conscious that the heaviness of his feet seems to be increasing at every step that he takes. All at once, he sinks in. He sinks in 2 or 3 inches. Decidedly, he is not on the right road. He halts to get his bearings. Suddenly, he glances at his feet. His feet have disappeared. The sand has covered them. He draws his feet out of the sand. He tries to retrace his steps. He turns back. He sinks in more deeply than before. The sand is up to his ankles. He tears himself free from it and flings himself to the left. The sand reaches to mid-leg. He flings himself to the right. The sand comes up to his knees. Then, with indescribable terror, he recognizes the fact that he is caught in a quicksand, and that he has beneath him that frightful medium in which neither man can walk nor fish can swim. He flings away his burden, if he have one. He lightens himself like a ship in distress. It is too late. The sand is above his knees. He shouts, he waves his hat or his handkerchief. The sand continually gains on him. If the beach is deserted, if the land is too far away, if the bank of sand is too ill-famed, there is no hero in the neighborhood. All is over. He is condemned to be engulfed. He is condemned to that terrible internment, long, infallible, implacable, which it is impossible to either retard or hasten, which lasts for hours, which will not come to an end, which seizes you erect, free, in the flush of health, which drags you down by the feet, which at every effort that you attempt, at every shout that you utter, draws you a little lower, which has the air of punishing you for your resistance by a redoubled grasp, which forces a man to return slowly to earth, while leaving him time to survey the horizon, the trees, the verdant country, the smoke of the villages on the plain, the sails of the ships on the sea, the birds which fly and sing, the sun in the sky. This engulfment is the sepulchre which assumes a tide, and which mounts from the depths of the earth towards a living man. Each minute is an inexorable layer out of the dead. The wretched man tries to sit down, to lie down, to climb. Every movement that he makes buries him deeper. He straightens himself up. He sinks. He feels that he is being swallowed up. He shrieks, implores, cries to the clouds, wrings his hands, grows desperate. Behold him in the sand up to his belly. The sand reaches to his breast. He is only a bust now. He uplifts his hands. utters furious groans, clenches his nails on the beach, tries to cling fast to that ashes, supports himself on his elbows in order to raise himself from that soft sheath, and sobs frantically. The sand mounts higher. The sand has reached his shoulders. The sand reaches to his throat. Only his face is visible now. His mouth cries aloud. The sand fills it. Silence. His eyes still gaze forth. The sand closes them. Night. Then his brow decreases. A little hair quivers above the sand. A hand projects, pierces the surface of the beach, waves, and disappears. Sinister obliteration of a man. Sometimes the rider is engulfed with his horse. Sometimes the carter is swallowed up with his cart. All founders in that strand. It is shipwreck elsewhere than in the water. It is the earth drowning a man. The earth, permeated with the ocean, becomes a pitfall. It presents itself in the guise of a plan, and it yawns like a wave. The abyss is subject to these treacheries. This melancholy fate, always possible on certain sea beaches, was also possible 30 years ago in the sewers of Paris. Before the important works, undertaken in 1833, the subterranean drain of Paris was subject to these sudden slides. The water filtered into certain subjacent strata, which were particularly friable. The footway, which was of flagstones, as in the ancient sewers, or of cement on concrete, as in the new galleries, having no longer an underpinning, gave way. A fold in a flooring of this sort means a crack, means crumbling. The framework crumbled away for a certain length. This crevice, the hiatus of a gulf of mire, was called a fontis, in the special tongue. What is a fontis? It is the quicksands of the seashore, suddenly encountered under the surface of the earth. It is the beach of Mont Saint-Michel, in a sewer. The soaked soil is in a state of fusion, as it were. All its molecules are in suspension and soft medium. It is not earth, and it is not water. The depth is sometimes very great. Nothing can be more formidable than such an encounter. If the water predominates, death is prompt. The man is swallowed up. If earth predominates, death is slow. Can anyone picture to himself such a death? If being swallowed by the earth is terrible on the seashore, what is it in a cesspool? Instead of the open air, the broad daylight, the clear horizon, those vast sounds, those free clouds whence reigns life, instead of those barks descried in the distance, of that hope under all sorts of forms, of probable passers-by, of succor possible up to the very last moment, instead of all this, deafness, blindness, a black vault, the inside of a tomb already prepared, death in the mire beneath a cover, slow suffocation by filth, a stone box where asphyxia opens its claw in the mire and clutches you by the throat, fetidness mingled with the death rattle, slime instead of the strand, sulphuretted hydrogen in place of the hurricane, dung in place of the ocean, and to shout, to gnash one's teeth and to writhe, and to struggle and to agonize with that enormous city which knows nothing of it all over one's head. Inexpressible is the horror of dying thus. Death sometimes redeems his atrocity by a certain terrible dignity. On the funeral pile, in shipwreck, one can be great. In the flames, as in the foam, a superb attitude is possible. One there becomes transfigured as one perishes. But not here. Death is filthy. It is humiliating to expire. The supreme floating visions are abject. Mud is synonymous with shame. It is petty, ugly, infamous. To die in a bud of Malvoisie, like Clarence, is permissible. In the ditch of a scavenger, like Escabeau, is horrible. To struggle therein is hideous. At the same time that one is going through the death agony, one is floundering about. There are shadows enough for hell, and mire enough to render it nothing but a slough. And the dying man knows not whether he is on the point of becoming a specter or a frog. Everywhere else, the sepulchre is sinister. Here it is deformed. The depth of the fontis varied, as well as their lengths and their density, according to the more or less bad quality of the subsoil. Sometimes the fontis was 3 or 4 feet deep. Sometimes 8 or 10. Sometimes the bottom was unfathomable. Here the mire was almost solid. There, almost liquid. In the Lunier fontis, it would have taken a man a day to disappear, while he would have been devoured in 5 minutes by the Philip Postloff.
The mire bears up, more or less, according to its density. A child can escape where a man will perish. The first law of safety is to get rid of every sort of load. Every sewerman who felt the ground giving way beneath him began by flinging away his sack of tools or his back basket or his hod. The fontis were due to different causes. The friability of the soil, some landslip at a depth beyond the reach of man, the violent summer rains, the incessant flooding of winter, long drizzling showers. Sometimes the weight of the surrounding houses on a marly or sandy soil forced out the vaults of the subterranean galleries and caused them to bend aside. Or it chanced that a flooring vault burst and split under this crushing thrust. In this manner, the heaping up of the Parthenon obliterated a century ago a portion of the vaults of St. Genevieve Hill. When a sewer was broken in under the pressure of the houses, the mischief was sometimes betrayed in the street above by a sort of space, like the teeth of a saw between the paving stones. This crevice was developed in an undulating line throughout the entire length of the cracked vault, and then, the evil being visible, the remedy could be promptly applied. It also frequently happened that the interior ravages were not revealed by an external scar, and in that case, woe to the sewermen. When they entered without precaution into the sewer, they were liable to be lost. Ancient registers make mention of several scavengers who were buried in fontis in this manner. They give many names, among others, that of the sewerman who was swallowed up in the quagmire under the manhole of the Rue Carême-Prenant, a certain Blais Potrain. This Blais Potrain was the brother of Nicolas Potrain, who was the last gravedigger of the cemetery called the Charnier des Innocents in 1785, the epoch when that cemetery expired. There was also that young and charming Viscount d'Escoubleau, of whom we have just spoken, one of the heroes of the siege of Lerida, where they delivered the assault in silk stockings, their violins at their head. D'Escoubleau, surprised one night at his cousin's, the Duchess de Sordis, was drowned in a quagmire of the Boutrellis sewer, in which he had taken refuge in order to escape from the Duke. Madame de Sordis, when informed of his death, demanded her smelling bottle, and forgot to weep through sniffling at her salts. In such cases, there is no love which holds fast. The sewer extinguishes it. Hero refuses to wash the body of Leander. Thisbe stops her nose in the presence of Paramus and says, "Phew." Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlile, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of Les Miserables. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. And while you're there, check out our t-shirt shop. You can look in the show notes or on our website, biteatatimebooks.com, for the rest of the links for our show. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can find us everywhere at Bite at a Time Books.